Going on, guys? This your boy John, a Liquidator, coming back with another video. So it looked like Caitlin Clark has called out Lexie Hall and Sophie Cunningham online. Guys, for this one here, we got to go all the way up to Indy. Let's get it. Let's go. Everybody had a great holiday, man. Things should be going back to schedule by the end of the weekend, man. I don't know how many videos I'm going to be putting out this weekend, but we shall put out some content here on the channel, man. With all that being said, I ain't going to waste no time, man. We're going to jump right into this thing, head on over to Google. So Lexie Hall made it her business to...
Imagine being Caitlin Clark, watching in sheer disbelief as the entire foundation of your team starts to crack and crumble right before your very eyes. The bombshell news that dropped wasn't just another headline about player contracts or salary caps. No, this was something much deeper. This was about loyalty, or maybe the lack thereof. It was about the growing whispers of a bitter, messy exit from two of her key teammates, Lexie Hall and Sophie Cunningham. These weren't just any players. They were once considered part of the absolute core of the Indiana Fever, and now they're the ones sending shockwaves ripping through the entire league with their decisions. And let me be clear, this isn't your standard run-of-the-mill free agency drama. This is a seismic shift, a potential earthquake for the franchise, and it's all being fueled by a simmering rivalry that exploded into public view months ago. Now, with their departures looking more and more likely, the true cost of all those past public jabs and the real impact on Clark is becoming terrifyingly clear. What once might have seemed like playful, competitive teasing, well, now it looks like the prologue to an absolute disaster for the Indiana Fever.
Head on over to Google. So Lexie Hall made it her business to, kind of take some shots at Caitlin Clark. Now, I know y'all is wondering, what? Take some shots at Caitlin Clark? Where is this coming from? Now, this article right here states Lexie Hall waited months to go back at Caitlin Clark. She probably could use a little sun. Now, that is what Lexie Hall stated. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. And Lexie Hall knows this well. The Indiana Fever guard waited almost 6 months for the perfect moment to get back at her teammate Caitlin Clark for teasing her about her tan line. Now,
The tension, believe it or not, all kicked off last May, and it was sparked by something as seeming innocent as a social media post. Sophie Cunningham shared a few photos that almost instantly went viral, showcasing a moment that would very quickly become infamous within the WNBA world. But here's the thing. It wasn't the pictures themselves that actually ignited the firestorm that followed. The real fuel for the fire was Caitlin Clark's immediate and incredibly sharp response right there in the comments section. Her words, delivered with that trademark bluntness she's famous for, completely transformed a casual, everyday post into a massive public spectacle. In that one moment, she set the stage for a dramatic public back and forth that would come to define their relationship for months to come. And you can bet the entire basketball world watched, absolutely captivated by the drama as it unfolded. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, and this feud was just getting started.
Is a dish best served cold. And Lexie Hall knows this well. The Indiana Fever guard waited almost 6 months for the perfect moment to get back at her teammate Caitlin Clark for teasing her about her tan line. Now, this is what Caitlin Clark is clowning him about. So this was from a couple months ago. As you guys can see here, this is Sophie Cunningham Instagram page. And Caitlin Clark quickly got in the comments section and said, a little less tanning, a little more basketball. This was 30 weeks ago. These are the photos right here that went viral at the time. This post right here has 130.
Caitlin Clark's comment was a direct hit, a verbal sniper shot that read, "Little less tanning, a little more basketball." It was signature Clark, unbelievably bold, fiercely competitive, and completely unapologetically direct. And you have to understand, this wasn't just some lighthearted, playful banter between teammates. No, this cuts right to the heart of professionalism and dedication in the eyes of a competitor like Clark. The original photos, which featured Sophie and Lexie, quickly racked up an astounding 33,000 likes, which just goes to show you how much attention this seemingly minor exchange actually managed to attract. This was a public challenge, a clear statement from the league's biggest and brightest star, and it made sure that the entire WNBA community was acutely aware of the friction simmering just beneath the surface.
Say last May, which that's what we just went over, Lexie strikes back at the barb that took 6 months to return. In a recent interview with People magazine during the Glam Women of the Year, Lexie Hall took the opportunity to talk about the now infamous photo shoot. She definitely jokes about it. The guard admitted she explained that Caitlin Clark often made comments on here and there, but it's all in good faith. Cunningham didn't hesitate to give her a hard time for the joke. Now, I believe this is what Lexie Hall put out here. Let me blow this up.
But you didn't really think Lexie Hall was just going to let Caitlin Clark have the final word, did you? Of course not. She waited, though. For almost 6 long months, Lexie patiently bided her time, carefully crafting the absolute perfect moment for her counterattack. This wasn't some impulsive heat-of-the-moment retort you might see on social media. No, this was a meticulously planned, calculated act of revenge. As sources close to the situation later described it, the basketball world often forgets that beneath all the on-court camaraderie and high fives, there are intensely competitive fires that burn fiercely within these athletes. And Lexie was about to deliver a powerful reminder to everyone that some slights are never truly forgotten. They're just strategically avenged when the time is ripe for maximum devastating impact.
Lexie and Caitlin remain best friends. Yeah, so one of the biggest conversations is going to be this offseason. You know, I think they have, when is the CBA? Let me see. Today's the 29th. When is the last day of the month? Let me pull up my calendar here. Let me pull up my calendar real quick. The last day of the month is tomorrow. I just thought about that. That was just a red. The last day of the month is tomorrow, guys. So basically, the WNBA has until tomorrow to get a CBA agreement done. Now, one of the biggest talks is going to be for
her golden opportunity finally arrived during a high-profile interview with none other than People magazine, right in the middle of the glamorous Women of the Year event. Surrounded by cameras and reporters, Lexie seized the platform, not just to talk about her incredible career, but to deliver a subtle yet absolutely devastating jab, aimed squarely at Clark. She could probably use a little sun, Lexie quipped, making a direct and unmistakable reference to Caitlin's earlier comments about her tan line. It was a perfectly timed, brilliantly executed public retort that reverberated across the entire WNBA, proving that the so-called playful teasing had indeed left a lasting impression. Lexie was determined to settle the score, and she was going to do it on her own terms, in front of the entire world.
Tomorrow, guys. So basically, the WNBA has until tomorrow to get a CBA agreement done. Now, one of the biggest talks is going to be free agency. One of the free agents for the Indiana Fever is none other than Lexie Hall. Lexie Hall is due for a major payday. I believe Lexie Hall should be getting her money. Ben said it. Ben speaking about it all offseason, that Lexie Hall, this is a payday year for her. She should be definitely getting paid. But another big question is Sophie Cunningham. Now, we know a few weeks ago, Sophie Cunningham has stated that she wanted to go to a team, the next team she went to, she wanted to buy a house there and basically make that her home.
Sophie Cunningham, who was deeply entangled in this social media saga right from the very beginning, only added more fuel to the raging fire. After all, the photos that started this whole thing were originally from her Instagram page, which brought her directly into the crosshairs of Caitlin's now infamous comment. So, after Lexie's public remarks hit the news, Sophie didn't hesitate for a second to give her teammate a hard time for the joke. But you have to see, this wasn't just a passive observation from the sidelines. It was an active participation in the back and forth, a clear signal that she was involved, which highlighted the incredibly intricate web of relationships and rivalries that so often define professional sports teams. The dynamic between these players was clearly far more complex and layered than it ever first appeared.
She should be definitely getting paid. But another big question is Sophie Cunningham. Now, we know a few weeks ago, Sophie Cunningham has stated that she wanted to go to a team, the next team she went to, she wanted to buy a house there and basically make that her home, which I think is great. You know, I think that is great that she's looking to do that. But here's my thing. This is where things kind of went south, because a lot of people feel as if, not Lexie, but Sophie was saying that as if she wanted to leave Indiana. And as of right now, I don't know, man. But they're definitely going to be the talk of the offseason.
The feature in People magazine absolutely cemented the narrative, officially confirming the playful yet pointed nature of Lexie's strategic response. The article didn't dance around the issue. It explicitly quoted Lexie Hall teasing her teammates about her move around tanning, and then directly referenced her sharp barb. She could probably use a little sun. This was no longer just some locker room talk or a private joke. It had become a widely broadcast public statement, ensuring that the entire WNBA universe, most particularly Caitlin Clark, heard Lexie's comeback loud and crystal clear. It was a carefully orchestrated media moment, a move designed from the start to deliver maximum impact and to underscore the very real tension simmering just below the surface.
There being a possible lockout. Now, I haven't heard anything yet about any extensions. They have until tomorrow, really Monday. So Monday is the day that we find out if there's going to be a lockout. Now, what's next is, okay, let's say it is a lockout. You really don't want this lockout going into March or April, because if the lockout do go into March or April, that could potentially hurt the May starting date for the season, because the season starts in May. Now, we definitely want to have a 2026 season, judging off everything that we...
But here's where the story takes a truly fascinating, and honestly, a kind of confusing turn. Despite all these very public, very pointed competitive exchanges we've just talked about, the official reports and the whispers from inside sources all insist that Lexie and Caitlin are still, get this, best friends. This single assertion just throws a whole new layer of complexity onto this entire drama. It forces you to ask the question, how can such sharp, public jabs possibly coexist with a deep, genuine friendship? It really paints a picture of this incredibly high-stakes competitive environment, a world where personal relationships are constantly being tested and strained by professional ambition and the blinding glare of the spotlight. That line between what's just playful teasing and what's real, genuine animosity, it appears to be incredibly razor thin, leaving all of us fans to just wonder about the true nature of their bond amidst all of this swirling controversy. Now, the stakes have escalated far beyond just playful jabs and social media comments. Lexie Hall is currently one of the most significant free agents on the market, poised for a major, life-changing payday. Her contract situation has become one of the biggest conversations of this offseason, with widespread speculation that she is going to command top dollar from whichever team signs her. And let's be real, this isn't just about the money. It's about her entire future, and the big question is whether that future remains with the Indiana Fever, potentially playing alongside Caitlin Clark. Her departure would represent a critical, devastating blow, ripping a key piece right out from the team's core and massively amplifying the impact of their past public disputes. And if you thought that was concerning, Sophie Cunningham's intentions are even more explicit, adding a whole new layer of urgency and panic to the Fever's roster concerns. Just 3 short weeks ago, Sophie went public and declared her desire to find a new team. She stated, and I quote, she wanted to go somewhere she could buy a house and make that her home. Now, that is not subtle in the slightest. It's a crystal clear signal of her readiness to pack her bags and leave Indiana behind. Her words immediately sent shockwaves through the organization and its fan base, painting a stark, bleak picture of a team potentially on the verge of losing critical talent and deepening the fears about Caitlin Clark's future with a severely depleted squad. Sophie's very public announcement was, unsurprisingly, widely interpreted as a direct statement of her intention to depart from the Indiana Fever. There was no ambiguity. Many fans and analysts immediately saw it as a strong, undeniable indication that she was ready to move on and start a new chapter. This perception created a massive ripple effect, sparking widespread anxieties about the team's overall cohesion and its ability to retain its key players. The thought of losing Sophie, especially when you factor in the existing tensions we've discussed, only compounds the monumental challenges facing the Fever as they look towards an incredibly uncertain off-season and a potentially fragmented, weakened roster. And if that wasn't enough, these critical player decisions are unfolding against a backdrop of unprecedented, league-wide uncertainty. The WNBA itself is facing a looming, terrifying deadline for a collective bargaining agreement, and with it comes the very real threat of a lockout if a deal isn't finalized in time. This incredibly precarious situation casts a long, dark shadow over the entire free agency period, making it incredibly difficult for players like Lexie Hall to secure their futures, and for teams like the Fever to even begin to plan their roster. The entire league is essentially holding its breath, desperately hoping to avert a crisis that could completely derail the entire upcoming season. A WNBA lockout would be absolutely devastating, especially if the negotiations drag on into March or even April. Think about what that means. An extended stoppage of that length would directly impair the start of the 2026 season, which is typically scheduled to kick off in May. The fans, so many of whom have become deeply invested in the league thanks to transcendent stars like Caitlin Clark, are absolutely desperate for a full, uninterrupted season of basketball. A lockout wouldn't just halt player movement and contract talks, It would severely damage the league's incredible growing momentum, potentially alienating a burgeoning fan base and inflicting serious long-term harm on its hard-earned reputation. Compounding the team's already massive woes is the fact that Caitlin Clark herself missed a substantial portion of last season, sitting out for over 30 games. This prolonged absence, which was due to an injury, raises some significant and unavoidable questions about her readiness and her durability as she moves forward. You see, the biggest storyline heading into the next WNBA season isn't just about free agency drama or the threat of lockouts. It's about whether Caitlin will return as the same dominant, seemingly unstoppable force that fans have come to expect. Her ability to lead a potentially fractured team, especially if key players like Lexie and Sophie depart, becomes the ultimate litmus test for her superstar status in the face of immense adversity. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more intense, you have to add another layer of pressure. Project B. This mysterious new league is looming like an existential threat to the WNBA. The reports are that Project B is making absolutely astronomical offers, signing players for $2 to $3 million right out of the gate. This incredible financial lure presents an unprecedented challenge, as Project B could easily poach top-tier talent from the WNBA, especially if the league faces a lockout. A lockout would leave its own players without paychecks and potentially desperate for alternatives. The stakes for the WNBA's very survival have truly never been higher. Let me spell it out. The WNBA absolutely cannot afford a lockout right now. And the primary reason is because Project B is out there actively and aggressively recruiting its players. It's a perfect storm. If the established league fails to pay its players because of a work stoppage, where do you think these highly sought-after athletes are going to go? They will inevitably gravitate towards Project B. This alternative league, which is offering substantial, life-changing financial incentive, could quickly drain the WNBA of its star power, leading to a catastrophic exodus of talent that would severely undermine the league's future relevance and its competitive integrity, all in one single devastating fell swoop. The situation is made even more dire by the unbelievable fact that the majority of the WNBA is currently made up of free agents. Just let that sink in. This staggering statistic amplifies the potential disaster of a lockout exponentially. If Project B starts swooping in and signing these women to multi-million-dollar deals while the WNBA is in organizational limbo, those players might be powerfully incentivized to just abandon the established league altogether. This isn't just about simple contracting negotiations anymore. This is a full-blown battle for the very soul of women's professional basketball, with the future of an entire institution hanging precariously in the balance against a well-funded, incredibly opportunistic rival. Just consider this chilling scenario. For star players like Kelsey Mitchell, another one of the Indiana Fever's key players, who also happens to be a free agent. Imagine for a moment that Project B approaches her and says, "Look, we don't really want you playing in the WNBA this season. It's locked out anyway. So how about this? Here's a multi-million-dollar contract." The implications of that are absolutely staggering. Project B could systematically dismantle WNBA rosters, cherry-picking the absolute best talent and fundamentally reshaping the entire landscape of women's basketball almost overnight, leaving established teams, including Caitlin Clark's Fever, completely vulnerable and hollowed out. The confluence of all these factors, the potential player departures, the looming threat of a lockout, and the meteoric rise of Project B casts a long, dark, and ominous shadow over the entire 2020s. Fans are left in a state of anxiety, wondering if there will even be a season to look forward to, or if the league they love will be irrevocably changed forever. The WNBA leadership is under immense crushing pressure to find a resolution, not just for the sake of player contracts, but for the very existence of the league as we know it. The clock is ticking, and the consequences of inaction are dire for every single person involved. Ultimately, the drama surrounding Lexie Hall and Sophie Cunningham, their public spats with Caitlin Clark, their impending free agency decisions, are much more than just isolated incidents. They are poignant, powerful symptoms of a league that is wrestling with its identity, its future, and its very survival. As Caitlin Clark potentially faces a future without her key teammates, and the WNBA as a whole battles for its existence against powerful external threats, the stakes simply could not be higher. This story isn't just about wins and losses on a basketball court anymore. It's about the soul of women's basketball, and whether it has the strength to withstand the massive storm that is rapidly brewing on every single front.